Welcome to Turning Moments into Movements, where each week we explore simple but powerful wellbeing tips to help you live a balanced and fulfilling life. My name's Leanne Ross, your host and the founder and coach of my business, Happy Luya, and I will be taking you through today's 15 minutes of insight and inspiration. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to this week's episode. This week's episode is all about workplace empowerment. And this is pillar 1 of my program, Workplace Empowerment. And the reason why I have a full pillar on this is I found that when I was working on my other pillars, when I was really trying to sort myself out and get myself just a bit better when I was really stressed and burnt out, I was looking at everything in my life and making changes. I was looking at my mindset. I was looking at my stress management strategies. I was looking at setting goals, and still there was a bit of a gap. And that gap was within the workplace itself. So when I'm talking about workplace empowerment, I tend to focus on these 5 steps. So the first one is culture. The second one is the people. The third is the job, the fourth is yourself, and then the fifth is externals. So what we're going to do today is we're going to break down these concepts, and I'm going to ask some sort of rhetorical questions that can really help you to reflect on how you can develop workplace empowerment within your workplace, whether you're a business owner, whether you're just working by yourself, whether you are a staff member, a manager. I feel that this is all applicable to every person who works in some sort of working capacity, in some sort of workforce. So I would really recommend for you to just really think outside the box and make this as person-centered to you as possible. So diving straight in, looking at culture. So why is culture important? So workplace culture is pivotal to workplace empowerment. It's something that can really harness our ability to move forward, but it can also lead to stagnation if the culture is not right. So is the culture quite bitchy? Is it very much focused on people wearing, a badge of honour, when they've done overtime, and there's that pressure for you to do the same? Is the culture maybe not aligned with equalities and protecting that aspect? Is it a case of there's a culture where people are not allowed to grow and flourish, and they're not encouraged to, progress within the workplace? Whatever that culture looks like, I want you to reflect on it and see where you as an individual can enhance it. And yes, you can. I almost heard that that little glimmer of doubt there of people being like, oh well, I'm just a staff member, or I don't have management and responsibilities, or well, I've tried it and it's not worked. Trust me, I've been there, I totally get it, but bear with me, because I promise you that it can really lead to positive changes if you do buy into these concepts. So think of one thing to enhance your workplace culture. And I'm going to give a couple of examples here. So it could be that you start becoming a bit of a role model to colleagues. So it could be that you just start taking your breaks. You start taking your tea breaks, your lunch breaks. You start gently challenging other people to take their lunch breaks as well. It could be just to start having positive conversations in the workplace. I myself was part of a huge problem when I was really unhappy. I was definitely one of those negative peoples in the workplace. I was, constantly unhappy and moaning and bitching. So sometimes just being aware of the dialogue within your workplace is really helpful, because it allows us to just change it a little bit. So focus on bringing positive conversations into the workplace. And you don't necessarily have to talk about work. You can talk about anything and everything. Sometimes I'll talk about comedians when I'm talking to people. I love going to comedy shows. So I'll sometimes talk about that. I'll sometimes talk about a funny situation or an inspiring story, or a book that I recommended, that I really loved. So really reflecting on how you can bring positive conversations into the workplace. And then finally, and this can be a bit of a challenging one, suggesting change. Now, you yourself will know how to do this, who to do this with, when to do this. You'll know the finer details. But sometimes recommending a change is really, really beneficial. I saw a really great example of a previous manager that I was managed by, who had penciled in 30 minutes every morning to just be available should a staff member need to talk to her. And that slight change really helps to change the dynamic, because it makes people feel that they're valued, it makes people feel listened to, it makes people feel deserving of that time. That manager carving 30 minutes in the morning every single morning to ensure that she was available. So recommending and sort of gently suggesting slight changes can really up-level that workplace culture. So maybe grab a notepad, pen, and just start to brainstorm around what changes you feel you could influence within the workplace culture. Moving on to number 2, people. So who are your go-to people? And this is really important, because if you don't have go-to people in the workplace, it can really lead to feelings of isolation and not feeling supported. So is it your manager? Is it another manager that you maybe feel a bit more comfortable with? Is it a trusted colleague? Is it a union representative? Is it a well-being practitioner in the workplace? Whoever that is, really ensuring that you have that at least one person as your go-to, because this can really enhance feelings of psychological safety if you have that trusted person. I would also encourage you to be one of those people. Be that go-to person for other people. Check in with people. Start to kind of build a habit of just saying, hey, how are you? How's your day been? What's been going on for you? And kind of just start to offer those gentle prompts, because inevitably people will come to you. Just be a little bit careful, because you don't want to get burnt out with that. But yeah, if you actually check out my episode on boundaries to complement with that last point, really going to be helpful. So yeah, reflecting on that people. So how can you be that go-to person for others, and who is your go-to person? Because having that is really going to support those feelings of psychological safety within the workplace. Looking at the job in itself. So there's no getting away. Jobs can be really stressful. Working roles can be really stressful. Sectors can be really stressful. So it's inevitable that we do have to acknowledge that. So reflect on what is causing you the most stress. So again, I would encourage you to just grab a piece of paper and a pen and just jot some ideas down. I would then encourage you to reflect on your non-negotiables. So could it be that you're really stressed because you keep getting emails after work and it's stressing you out because you feel that you should then log on and work as well? Is it a case of you feel that you're constantly being pushed to do overtime? Is it a case of you're not really having the opportunity to communicate with your colleagues because you're all so busy? Whatever it is, really reflect on how to start to shift that. So is it a case of, with the emails, just simply turning off the notifications at the end of the day? I do that. I still do that. I've got a full-blown business and I turn off my notifications. when I log off, because it's, it impedes on my personal time. It's really important that I'm practicing what I preach. Is it a case of you, once again, reflecting on the boundaries episode that I did a few weeks ago, just saying no to that overtime that you really don't want to do? Is it a case of carving out time for when you want to speak to your colleagues, maybe arranging to have your lunch breaks at the same time? Maybe, ensuring that you are all taking your lunch breaks. So really reflecting on little tweaks that could really support you to shift that stress and to just alleviate it a little bit. And remember, this podcast is called Turning Moments into Movements. We're just making little adjustments that will build up over time. I then want you to reflect on yourself. So, what are your stress management strategies, if at all? What are your coping strategies? And I always say this, coping strategies are very much overcomplicated. Coping strategies are just things that make you feel good. So is it a case of during or after work you go for a walk? Is it a case of you carve out some self-care, you phone a friend, you kind of start to engage in sort of regulation, so self-regulation, so you start to meditate. Is it a case of just for yourself and your own well-being, you do start to buy into some of this stuff, you do start to really want to make those changes in your life? Another thing that can be really helpful when we are looking at stress is to really reflect on your own signs and symptoms. So what does it look like when you start to become stressed? I certainly become overtired and I get a tight jaw because I'm like, I feel stressed. We hold so much tension in our jaw. I also get a sore back and sore shoulders. And then a few weeks' time, if I've not interjected and kind of put in some boundaries for myself, I always get burnt out. I always become overwhelmed with stress. So really paying attention to those signs and symptoms are really, really important to support you within your workplace. The last one is the external. So this is touching on pillar 2 of my program. So looking at holistic modelling. So holistic modelling is really looking at the 8 dimensions of wellness. So we have spirituality, environment, career, intellect, which is all about self-development and growth, emotional and mental health, finances, social and physical. So sometimes, and we don't want to overwhelm ourselves here, we just want to make these small changes. Sometimes looking at the externals can be really helpful just to shift those dynamics and that kind of struggle within the workplace. So what can you do to support your physical health that might just make you feel a little bit better within yourself? What can you do to support your financial strains right now? And sometimes what I would recommend as a quick activity to look at the final point of externals is look at the 8 dimensions of wellness, and I'll put a link in the show notes so you can have a look at it. On a scale of 1 to 10, where do you sit with each section? And then on your lowest point, so for example, if my career was 8 out of 10, 10 being the best, but my physical health was sitting at a 3, that's the area I should focus on. So what can I do to support that dimension? Because it all is intertwined. Our workplace, our work life affects our personal life, and similarly our personal life can really affect our work life. So if we're coming at it from all angles, really effective. So to recap, to really support and develop and increase that workplace empowerment that we really want to embed within our working lives, I want you to focus on the culture, the people, the job, yourself, and the external. So really reflecting what changes you can make in each area that are just small, tangible changes that are really going to benefit you, as well as others as well. Like, let's be honest, this is all going to be of benefit for people. So, lots of self-reflection here, lots of brainstorming. Get your pens and paper ready because you are really going to find benefit within this. And as always, you need a bit of buy-in, so you need to believe that these changes are actually going to be helpful if you start to really look at this within these 5 steps. As always, thank you so much for listening. Please get in touch with any questions, and I look forward to speaking to you all next week. Take care. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Turning Moments into Movements. Why not check out coaching opportunities with me so you can really begin to enhance your moments into huge movements and begin to live the life you never thought possible? Details are in the show notes. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, leave a review and share this episode. Remember to also follow me on social media platforms through my handle Happyluia, where you will receive additional daily content. And finally, make sure you join us next week for more tips on how you can turn your small moments into life-changing movements.